Before we start, I also want to acknowledge, well, we'll acknowledge two things. I'll let you give your announcement about what's in the hallway.
About what?
What's in the hallway? We have.
Oh, what's in the hallway? Got it.
We have meeting kits now that our sustainability division is piloting. And those kits include water and cups that people can make a reservation for when they have meetings. And this is a help offset the use of plastic bottles. So we're piloting it upstairs in the county executive office right now, but we're hoping to open it up to the whole county. Which is perfect because we'll have a presentation on waste.
That's a different law, SB 54, plastic cups.
It is.
There's a new one that just passed too, SB 27. SB 27, that requires all companies that are $1 billion more in size to register the carbon footprint.
So you want me to do my announcement? Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were talking about. Now I understand. I live in Ojai and associated with the Ojai Valley Museum. And the museum put on an exhibit called Flora and Fauna in the Time of Climate Change. Talked about rare plants and animals in the Ojai Valley that are threatened with climate change. And then there were 3 panels that dealt with climate change, and with help from Heather and David in the CEO's office, we were able to hang them, and they were previously there by the board entrance to the boardroom, and now they're right here in the main entrance, so you probably walked by them. And because they won't be there beyond the end of the month, I think, I encourage you today on your way out to take a look. Talks about climate change, causes and consequences and solutions. So have a look.
Very good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Ventura County Climate Emergency Council. Today, Monday, October 23rd, 2023. We're starting just a few minutes late here. We're meeting in the Atlantic Conference Room at the Hall of Administration main plaza. And no one is joining us remote. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
None of the council members.
Okay, for the council members. That's right.
Members of the public.
That's right.
That's not correct. There's a couple of us, I think, who are joining remote who are not council members.
Oh, no, I'm just referring to those that are council members. We don't have any council members joining remotely. If they were, we had to go through certain standards to do that. So that's what I was just announcing. No, I know that you folks are on and you're part of the public that's on.
Forgive me.
That's okay, no problem. No problem. All right, so let's move on to item number 2 then. The roll call, please, and the introduction.
Vice Chair White.
I'm here.
Councilmember Syed.
I'm here.
Chair Munoz Snap.
Here.
Councilmember DeTore.
Here.
Newest Councilmember Perez.
Here.
Councilmember Sabella. Councilmember Keith Corolla.
Here.
Councilmember Para. Councilmember Camarillo.
Here,
And Councilmember Crowe.
Here.
All right, wonderful. So we have a pledge of allegiance, and is Mia going to join us?
Yes, but she's here for the oath of office, which is the next item.
Yeah. So is she on all right?
Yes, she is.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we have an oath of office for a new council member. She's replacing Yes.
Pledge of allegiance.
Oh, pledge of allegiance. Yes, I missed that. I'm so sorry. Councilmember Corolla, could you do us the favor?
on our heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Now we can move on to item number 4. So this is the oath of office for our new council member who's replacing council member Juan Rostro. And this is Michaela Perez. And so we should have then
And looks like Mia is there.
Martinez.
I will pin her so she is bigger.
I am here. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I just want to make sure. So Michaela.
Yes, and I stand.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to have you repeat after me. I'm going to go very slowly. So raise your hand. I state your name.
I, Michaela Perez,
Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
All right, congratulations.
Yay.
Thank
So we'll have her fill out then the signature here and Mia will then attest to that. Okay. Great. Okay, so let's move on to item number 5, approval of minutes from July 18th. We do have 2 minutes to approve there because we missed a meeting. So we'll start with the July 18th minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the July 18th meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so motion has been made and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair White,
Yes.
Councilmember Sad,
Yes.
Chair Munoz Snell,
Yes.
Councilmember DeTore,
Yes.
Councilmember Perez. I will recuse myself. Is that right? Thank you. Councilmember Harrella. Councilmember Keith Corolla,
Yes.
Councilmember Para, Councilmember Camarillo,
Yes.
and Councilmember Crowe.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So we go ahead and then approve that. So let's move on to item number 6, approval of minutes from the August 22nd Ventura County Climate Emergency Council. Is there a motion?
I move for the approval of the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice Chair White,
Yes.
Councilmember Syed,
Yes.
Chair Munoz Snell,
Yes.
Councilmember DeTore,
Yes.
Councilmember Perez. I will recuse myself as well. Thank you. Councilmember Harrella, Councilmember Keith Corolla,
Yes.
Councilmember Para, and Councilmember Camarillo,
Yes.
and Councilmember Crowe.
Yes.
All right, so that is moved. Let's move on to public comments for items not on the agenda. So we reserve a few minutes here on the agenda to take care of items that are not as part of the agenda. So anyone in the audience here in the room that wants to make a public comment for that, so seeing none, so do we have anyone online that would like to speak up now on items not on the agenda? You could raise your hand or you could take yourself off of mute. All right, so seeing none, let's move on then to correspondence agenda. There were no items on that part of the agenda, so then we'll move to the regular agenda. And we have item number 9, to receive a presentation on the Ventura County Waste Reduction Initiatives. We do have a few staff members here from Water and Sanitation Division. And Heather, do you want to go ahead and introduce them?
Yes, let me bring their presentation up.
Okay.
Where did it go? I'll just introduce you, and while I'm bringing this up, if you'd like to speak further, this is Lisa McCullough from Public Works, and this is Toby Mitchell, and they will both be doing a presentation. Lisa will be going first on our county waste initiatives. And I will. Sorry, there's, as typical, a delay.
The delay, sure, no problem. You'll be here tomorrow. So as we're preparing the screen here, I believe those remotely can actually see it, but we're going to be going to the presentation style. So very good.
Apologize for the delay.
All right, so go ahead,
Do you
Lisa.
want me to take the mouse? Heather, you're welcome. Okay, so I've been warned that there's a delay on the mouse, so. Anyway, well, thank you for the opportunity for us to be here and present. I'm speaking with Councilmember. I was surprised to hear that you are not familiar with SB 1383. Being in the solid waste industry, we live, eat, breathe 1383. So happy to be able to share a little bit on that with you. So we're just going to dive right in. Just move it up, or
Yeah, you can drag it.
see, it's a tricky mouse.
I don't have any.
It's not my friend. Is it? Well, oh,
I think you can make
Can
that
we-
more.
Can we minimize that thing on the right? It says blocking the presentation.
You can minimize what you see is the column over on the right.
yes.
Go to the top and click the first button right there.
Uh-huh.
And then
Are you trying to move that?
And then that you could just.
When it becomes a cross, that's when you can. There you
Well,
go.
that's better, right?
There you go.
There we go.
It's not just. Anyway, we're just gonna dive right in. So greenhouse gas is, I mean, it's become a household phrase, right? And it's become a core value for a lot of our businesses today. And it's largely why your council is in existence, correct? So being in the solid waste industry, methane happens to be our greenhouse gas on the hit list. And so that's what we're gonna focus on. The organics in the landfill are creating the methane gas. And even though it's a short-lived climate pollutant, it's 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And so it's a problem. It's a big problem. It's also causing a lot of health issues with air pollutant. Organics in itself is between 40 and 50% what is made up in the landfill. Here's a Cal Recycle, our state recycling department's breakdown based on the 2014 waste characterization report. You can see that organics, which is not just your landscape, but it's your food waste as well, is 34%. And then there's another 7% just in compostable paper. So it's over 40% of what's in our landfill right now. So California has put some legislation in place to circumvent that and try and get these organics out of the landfill. AB 1826 was originated in 2016, and it was specific to the commercial sector. if you hit a certain threshold of generation, you were required to recycle your organics. And then SB 1383, that is by far the most aggressive organics legislation that's ever hit California. And that not only applies to the commercial sector, but to the residential sector as well. So California is not messing around here. Based on SB 1383 and the reports that were put in place, the 2020 goal of diverting 50% of organics from the landfill did not get met. And we're now focusing on hitting 75% by 2025. We have a long way to go. And then in addition, SB 1383 has put together, which Toby will talk about, an edible food recovery component, because so much of the edible food is currently going to the landfill. So she will discuss that later. Here in a nutshell are the SB 1383 requirements. And these have all been tackled in either our new solid waste ordinance or in our new collection agreements. We'll talk about some of these in a few minutes. So we did redo our solid waste ordinance, and we put those components of the SB 1383 components in. And our current both residential and commercial agreements expire at the end of this calendar year. We've already had board approval on the residential agreements. They were approved in July and they go into effect January 1st. Here's a look at some of the items that changed over from our current agreements. We had 16 residential service areas and it was reduced down to 4. Most of the SB 1383 requirements were incorporated into the agreements. The contracts were awarded. 3 of the 4 quadrants were awarded to EJ Harrison. 1 was awarded to Athens. Athens is currently serving in the county, not in that incorporated area, but they serve for the cities of Santa Paula and City of Thousand Oaks. And done a lot of transition planning meetings with them since their contract was approved. And I think that I think the county is going to be very pleased with the service that they're going to be providing. So, and we're looking at a 10-year, but possibly up to a 20-year partnership with them, both EJ and Athens. Just on the residential sector, the commercial agreements have been put together. They are actually in the hands of the commercial haulers right now for signature. And they should be going to the board before the board on November 7th. All agreements start January 1st.
Lisa, I have a question.
Yes.
On the first bullet item that says it was reduced from 16 to 4, does it mean that the 16 were consolidated into the 4 areas?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then those 4 of these that you name here.
Yes.
Got it.
So here are some of the items that we've incorporated into the new agreements that have a sustainability component to them. First and foremost, we required a very detailed sustainability and compliance plan from both Athens and EJ Harrison. And it's really for them to show us how they're going to partner on helping us meet these diversion goals. Education and outreach is another important piece, and the contractors, the haulers, are partnering on that with us as well. We need to let the businesses and the residents know what's at stake here. And we already started this process with, we amended our existing agreements. The board approved that in May of last year so that we could get some of these components up and running, like we added food waste to curbside collection. That was a big hurdle. It was a big hurdle, and we're still educating it. You know, there's the carrot and the stick, and we really prefer to be the carrot, and so we are educating and educating. However, between our new agreements as well as our ordinance, there is the stick part too, and there actually is a there's fees and penalties involved if we can't get accounts under compliance, but there's gonna be so much education involved before that happens that we're hoping that we don't even have to get to that stick part. Procurement of recycled organic products. So we, for the part of that 313A3's requirement is that we procure compostable, well, there's four main materials that we can procure. It's based on population. Every jurisdiction in California has to meet this on an annual basis. And it can either be compost, mulch, bioenergy, or renewable energy. And we're focusing more so on compost and mulch. And Mr. Camarillo is a big part of that with Agriment. So we're just purchasing what's being composted and mulched and putting it back into the community. So it'll be available for residents, for businesses, for the ag industry, nonprofits. And we're hoping to keep it local.
How will that be distributed?
How will it be distributed?
Yeah, back into the community. How does that happen?
Well, we see the residential sector as a very small part of that, but we definitely want to make it available to them. So, for example, the contractors, the haulers have agreed to have it available at the neighborhood cleanup events, any special events that might be taking place. We're also looking at putting a program in place with Agriment, emulating what City of Ventura is currently doing, where residents and businesses can secure it either directly at Agriment's facility or have it delivered for a fee. The product itself will be at no charge to the business or to the resident. To the point of what our procurement target is. If we hit that target and people are still wanting it, you know, we'll discuss a price at that point. So the haulers have agreed to help us procure meeting that threshold. So we're still in the process of putting that procurement policy in place too. So it's not set in stone yet, but we have a pretty good idea of what that's going to look like. And we've been through our transition planning meetings in conversation with both J. Harrison and Athens on what that looks like.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Extended producer responsibility diversion program. So in addition to the community cleanup events the contractors will do, there will also be 2 drives, countywide drives per year where individuals can bring in items such as the textiles and the carpets, which are organic, as well as mattresses. That's new to the agreement. Updated collection vehicles. We want to get away from using the diesel burning vehicles. We're looking at phasing out the high carbon vehicles and using low carbon alternative fuels. And let's see, curbside organic collection. Of course, I already mentioned we've now included food waste in that. We've increased bulky items from 2 to 4 pickups. We have a new door-to-door household hazardous waste program, which we've never had in our agreements before. And then, of course, we'll continue with the annual neighborhood cleanup events, which is it's a 1-day. We do about 15 a year in various areas in the unincorporated area of the county. It's a 1-day event where neighbors can come, residents of that area can come in, they can bring their trash and their recycling and their metal and usually electronic waste. We're adding shred event to that, and as well as thrift store. It's just it's a one-stop shop for them.
I have a question around education and outreach. Do you mind expanding on what that looks like? I know you talked about some of these events that are happening, more so from the residential perspective, around education and outreach.
Okay. Well, between bill insert, direct mailings, information on websites. We actually have been out in the community, going to some of the MAC meetings and just listening to the residents and taking that opportunity to educate them.
And we are open to other ideas.
Now, how closely do you work with the cities with this kind of program? Do you share these ideas with, like, say, City of Oxnard or Ventura?
You know what, we do meet with them.
Mhm.
And in fact, hopefully we'll get into that
Okay.
on the edible food recovery. I mean, there is a regional collaboration happening. And I think we're all in the same industry, and there's often one-on-one conversations on this is what we're doing, sharing information. Why reinvent the wheel?
Question?
Yes.
Do we have any specifics, details on the door-to-door household hazardous waste collection? Like, how will that actually work? Do we have any specifics yet?
Yes, it's built into the program, or it's built into the agreement, so the resident will just contact their hauler and request it.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Very good.
And what they would like to do is be able to calendar multiple pickups in one location at a time. So it may be that they don't come out the very next day, but it might be, 2 to 3 weeks down the road, and they start working on charting in a certain area.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
You mentioned something that we didn't meet the goal in 2020 of the organic waste disposal. What does that mean? That instead of it being recycled in the organic waste bin, it just got put into the landfill? Or I guess
It's
two
not-
questions. How is that quantified? And then like what is exactly?
It's quantified through, and Toby, correct me if I'm wrong here, but through each jurisdiction in California is responsible for an annual report to the state. And so they look at those numbers and they quantify it that way. So the 50% diversion was not met. And in fact, because it wasn't met, AB 1826, that was kind of a sliding scale on depending on how much generation that business or how much organics the business generated would determine if they needed to subscribe to service or what their requirement was. Because on the state level, the 20 or the 50% was not met, they reduced that threshold so that any business generating 2 cubic yards or more a week, and that's inclusive of trash, recycling, and organic. So that's a pretty low threshold, must recycle it organic. So, and then 1383 came around, not only continuing to put the businesses on the hook, but the residents as well. So it kind of overrode 1826.
And I guess instead of it being recycled, it ended up in the landfill along with just regular trash.
Any other questions?
I have a question that I know the answer to, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm on the spot.
Do you happen to know what the greenhouse gas emission reduction is for the amount to be diverted in the county? Because this body here is meant to help reduce greenhouse gas emission reductions. And it's a math problem. And there are lower cost ways of doing it, and then there are more expensive ways of doing it. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions through landfills and diverting it from landfills is one of the lower cost hanging fruit that's out there. And the state of California obviously was supposed to be at 50% in 2022, and they were at 5%. So our county is responsible for diverting X amount of tons from the landfills. I don't know if you guys have done that calculation or not.
Are we talking about this on a piece of paper here?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
procurement. So
Oh,
the
just
county's new
diversion.
tons of organic waste diversion is about 400,000 tons a year that have to be diverted from the landfill. That greenhouse gas emission is 200,000 metric tons of CO2 annually reduction. So when we look at all these programs that are being implemented in the county are driven by the state. And 1826 was not an effective bill, which is why 1383 came into play with teeth in it. So all these programs Lisa's talking about, they're all new. And we should know more about that because that plays a big role in this county's greenhouse gas emissions. And every one of those elements play into that along with energy, waste, water. Yeah, it's a big number. We don't have enough infrastructure in the county to do it, which is the challenge.
And who does that fall on? You know, who is it those that we contract with that have to then have the equipment and everything else built in for their infrastructure then to receive it and do what they have to with the organic stuff?
So I would say it's a collaboration between the government. If they want to do it themselves with the private sector, but it's a heavy lift and I don't see any one organization being successful at it without a collaboration. I
will-
put you on the
thank
spot so I can answer my own
You know
question.
what? Thank you. It's what I have here today.
I will add that EJ Harrison will be presenting at either the November, depending on scheduling, the next meeting. I've talked to Nan about that, and then I haven't contacted Athens. Do we still work with waste management?
We do, they have a residential agreement through the end of the calendar year, and then they are slated to also have a commercial agreement.
Oh, okay. They will be presenting in January.
Waste
And-
management
Yes,
on the landfill,
yes.
And they also run the largest landfill in the county,
Just which one?
the Simi Valley landfill.
The point of clarification, you said
Yes.
400,000 tons. Is that organic material or just total,
Or organic.
just organics?
Based on a 2018 study that CalRecycle did, that's the estimated new tons,
And the CO2 equivalent is
50%.
is that based on the 84 on methane being 84 times as powerful as CO2?
So 84 times is a short-lived climate pollutant of 20 years.
Yeah,
25 times is a long-term climate pollutant. So this bill, SB 1383, is not a recycling bill. It's a short-lived climate pollutant bill. So it's based on a
Commercial agreement
25-year period.
item coming on November 7th.
so that's the 84 number?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
25 years.
short term, yeah.
That was interesting.
Mystery.
We have a ghost.
I do see number two on chat, so are there some questions there on the for those that are attending? Is there? What is the status of the RFP for the EFR program?
okay, and Toby will handle that.
Okay.
That next.
Okay,
Might be-
is there any plan to look into community compost centers and pushing pest resistant backyard composting? Okay. Right, so we see then those two questions on the chat. All right. Lisa, do you have anything else to share with the group? No? Any questions for Lisa before we then go to Toby?
While we're transitioning, I'll also mention for outreach, I know we participate in a lot of Earth Day events, and typically the sustainability division brings some materials. I believe Public Works brings materials, and then a lot of the cities. I think the big Earth Day events that we participate in are Thousand Oaks and Ventura, and sometimes Ojai, and the cities also have a lot of information about their programs.
You might just want to close the participants.
Yeah, so just the X there at the other corner. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
You can close that right there. You go, close that.
Sorry, delay.
No, that's okay.
I was waiting for the bar to come up so I can.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
To the bottom,
Share
yeah.
screen. There you
Great.
go.
Thank you,
Have
Heather.
fun with the mouse.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is Toby Mitchell. I'm also with Public Works, Water and Sanitation, and Lisa talked about the first part of SB 1383 compliance, which is related to organics going to landfill, organics that can't be reused again. Well, they can be, but that are not edible. So now we're going to talk about the edible organics that are going to landfills. This is also a requirement of SB 1383. So here are some stats, some unfortunate stats about food waste in California. CalRecycle estimates that over 11.2 billion pounds of food going to landfills each year. And the EPA estimates that over 58% of methane emissions from landfills is due to wasted food. So tying that into the need in California, where we have a population that is food insecure, 10.8% of the state's population didn't have enough to eat back in 2018, and that's only gotten worse with the COVID pandemic and economic impacts. So tying in the requirements of SB 1383 into hopefully helping those who need food, simultaneously meeting our SB 1383 requirements, that's something that this program is looking into. So there's a lot of wasted food that's going to landfills that is still edible, that is still good food that can be diverted to places where it's needed, like food banks, soup kitchens, and other recovery resources. So Lisa talked about Senate Bill 1383. I won't cover all of this, but the point I want to highlight here is the requirement in the law that requires a 20% recovery of edible food from landfill disposal. That's a lot by 2025. That's a brand new requirement that's being placed on local governments in California. And the law has requirements for cities and counties, for large generators, and for food recovery organizations. And if we don't, fulfill our obligation, that will result in financial penalties to jurisdictions. So here are some of the requirements that are placed on cities and counties to comply with edible food recovery. So first we had to, and we did this a couple years ago, first we had to identify how much edible food is generated in our jurisdiction. We had to identify all of our tier 1 and tier 2 edible food generators, and I'll show you who those folks are. We need to expand capacity for edible food recovery if there is not sufficient existing capacity in the county. We have to provide outreach and education to our generators and find increased access to food recovery organizations. We currently have a list on our website of all of the pantries and food recovery organizations that are willing to, that are able to take more food. And we also have to do reporting to CalRecycle each year on pounds that are donated through the system. And like I said, by 2025, we could be facing state fines and penalties. So what is a large generator? It's not every business in the area. There's 2 different tiers. Tier 1 is your big food generators. Those folks had to comply by January 1 of this year. So you're looking at the big supermarkets, grocery stores, wholesale food vendors, food distributors. And most of those businesses do already have agreements in place with the regional food bank and other food recovery organizations. Tier 2, this is a more challenging group of businesses because now you're introducing prepared food from restaurants, large restaurants, hotels with on-site food facilities, large venues, large events. And it was up to the county to create a list of all of these generators within the jurisdiction, identify all of them, and begin outreach to all of them. So what do the generators have to do? What is the obligation on the business? First, they have to identify a food recovery organization that they can donate to, and they need to have an agreement in place with that food recovery organization. It might be more than one. Then they have to donate to that organization or multiple organizations and keep records of all of the donations. And then that has to be provided to the jurisdiction on a quarterly basis. So in Ventura County, we did a study back, we wrapped it up May of last year. And this is what we determined based off of an extensive survey. We did phone calls. We contracted with an organization called Abound Food Care. They did phone calls, emails. We had SurveyMonkey. We identified over 100 tier 1 generators throughout the county. This is not just the unincorporated. This is inclusive of the cities, and 377 tier 2 generators. So down here, you can see how it's broken down within each of these cities and the unincorporated county. You can kind of see up on the map too, shows kind of the cluster hotspots of where the majority of these businesses are. Obviously, in the city centers is where we're finding them. So all of these generators, all the tier 1 so far have received outreach from their respective jurisdiction. Most of them are in compliance. There's still some that haven't complied yet, but they all are in the process of getting those agreements with Food Share and other food recovery organizations right now. So what is the role of the food recovery organization? So we already have a robust network in the county, Food Share, and all of their network pantries that are currently providing the service to the county. And you know, it's kind of a strange component to bring this into our sphere of influence with public agencies. But what we noticed in working with Food Share in preparing our study was that this is a lot of extra work for them, that they're already very busy right now with their mission. And this is a lot of extra reporting. There's also challenges that they just don't have the resources to be able to provide this service on behalf of the city and the cities in the county. There's a significant lack of cold storage in food pantries throughout the county. A lot of the pantries do not have scales where they can weigh food that's being donated. And there's prepared food is just an inherent challenge for food recovery organizations, especially for our regional food bank. They like to receive food on pallets, so large quantities, predictable donations so that they can distribute it appropriately to their pantry partners. When you have restaurants donating prepared food, you're getting it in small quantities. It could be irregular donations. It could be maybe food that is not of high nutritional value. So there's a lot of challenges with the prepared food. Also, the food recovery network in the county depends largely on, you know, the goodwill of volunteers. So you do have a rotating group of volunteers that are working in the food bank, in the pantries. And, you know, if you train them to do reporting to the city and county, they might not be there the next year to be able to do it again for you. So there's just a lot of challenges that we're seeing with the existing network.
For the prepared food, who determines if it's edible? Is it the producer or is it the food banks?
So what we're working on is some standards that we'll be giving to the generators on what kind of food is prepared food. That's another issue, because what we don't want to do is have donors just donate a bunch of food that isn't edible. Then it turns into a disposal cost for the food recovery organization on the back end. And if they can't use it, then they have to pay to dispose it. So we're working on refining what those requirements are going to be, and also make sure that if it's prepared food, that it's only going to an organization that can turn around and get it out the door to who needs it.
Is there a liability to the producer?
So the Good Samaritan Act has been expanded. So there is a lot of protection for food donors and food recovery organizations in getting this food out. So kind of going back to your question, Chair Munoz, about a regional approach to this.
Ask a question.
Oh, yeah.
So this Good Samaritan, because I know quite a few restaurant owners and they refuse to give it because they're afraid that somebody might get sick. So does Good Samaritan law covers them if they give food out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share.
Because I know
copy of
I know
with
quite
you.
a few of them and they all refuse to, they'd rather dump it because if someone gets sick,
Yeah.
then they would get sued.
And that's part of our outreach too to the generators, is making sure that they understand that there is a significant amount of protection for them with the
That's
Good
good to
Samaritan
know.
Act. Yeah. So every city and county has to comply with the same requirement, this edible food recovery requirement. However, what we have found is that it makes the most sense for us to work together on this, because we have our regional food bank that's supporting all of our jurisdictions. We have pantries in various parts of the county that may be receiving donations from other cities. And also we have businesses that are operating in multiple locations throughout the county. So if we're giving, you know, Vaughn's in the city of Simi Valley gets one set of requirements for edible food requirement, then they go to city of Ventura and it's something different. It's just confusing. So we started working together with all of the cities back in May of last year. We meet pretty much on a monthly basis. Food Share joins us on those calls, and we have Cal Recycle that join us occasionally. But what we really wanted to do was make sure that all of our jurisdictions comply with the law, but that we maximize our food recovery efforts. Also that we save costs and staff time. There's a lot of jurisdictions in the county where maybe they contract out their solid waste services to a consultant, or they maybe have one person who's responsible for all of the work at the city. So it's a lot to expect of all the jurisdictions individually, but together it makes the most sense for us to work on this program together. And also another component that we're very cognizant of is making sure that it's not 10 cities in the county constantly approaching the food bank and the food recovery organizations, asking for data, asking for stuff. It's better if we just have one point of contact, go to them to get that information from them, because they're busy working on their mission, feeding hungry people. So we worked together and we put together a scope of work for a food recovery administrator. Lisa and I, our background is solid waste recovery, and all of us that are working on this program, we're solid waste people. We're not in the food recovery space. So we need to bring in somebody that knows what they're doing. So we worked collectively on a scope of work, and the things that we all identified together that we thought would be most helpful for a regional program is we want a simple and centralized data collection hub that all the jurisdictions will use and all the food recovery organizations will use. Make sure all of our outreach material is uniform, it's multilingual, it touches all the bases, it's consistent. Single point of contact for the food bank and local food recovery organizations, business inspection templates, checklists, donation agreement templates, everything just as consistent as possible. And also we need help with having some staff people that will go out and visit these businesses and do a face-to-face with them and make sure that they understand what the law is, and also that what they're doing is making a difference in this space. So as I mentioned, we don't have a lot of staff collectively throughout the county, so having these designated outreach staff on food recovery will be really helpful to everybody. Also, this scope of work is not an indefinite service that we can offer with our current level of funding. So it's more of a pilot program. We're asking the food recovery administrator to take lessons learned from a pilot period and extend it out for a 5-year plan. So how can we expand the program in partnership with Food Share's recovery network? So we did issue, the county issued an RFP in June. We awarded in September, and we are taking the contract to the board on December 5th. Abound Food Care was the successful proposer, and they are an organization that's based out of Anaheim, and they are very experienced in the edible food recovery space. They do a lot of food recovery with the large entertainment venues down in Anaheim. They worked with us on our capacity study in 2021. They did a good job. So we're very excited to work with them again in this capacity. We're going to hit the ground running. December 6th is when we start with them, and we'll be going through February of 2025. So the cool thing about how we're funding this program, this program is not going to be at a cost to any jurisdiction. We currently collect 5 cents per ton of solid waste disposed to all county landfills. That money has been sitting in an account generating interest for the past several years. It's earmarked just for regional solid waste programs. So we're going to be using that funding to fund this entire effort for this 14-month period. So all the jurisdictions are going to get this service at no cost to them. So we're viewing that as just a really good use of the funds. And if it's something that makes sense for all the jurisdictions, and if we want to continue it beyond the 14 months, we could possibly increase, go to the board and request an increase in the funding, which is currently just at 5 cents per ton. At one point, it was up as high, what, 50 cents a ton? And we've brought it down as needs have decreased. But if there's a need, there's always that option to increase the funding. So that's where we're at. Are there any questions?
Can you go back to that last screen? What will they be? What will they be providing for this contract?
Yes. Okay, so the primary thing that they're going to be doing is creating regional resources for the county. So they're doing the data collection hub, they're doing outreach materials. They're also going to be providing staff to do in-person visits to every single generator in the county on the jurisdiction's behalf. They're also going to be our main point of contact with Food Share and the edible food recovery organizations. They're going to be doing training, teaching them how to use the donation platform that we're going to have. And also they're going to be looking for needs too in the food recovery organizations. They've already identified scales and cold storage are two big needs, but if there's other needs that they view as being roadblocks to us all meeting our goals together, they're going to bring that back to the jurisdictions and see how we can help fund that. So they're going to be our liaison with the food recovery organizations, essentially.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there a
Yeah.
transportation element in that agreement on how the food gets from the generators?
So we're going to be exploring Chow Match as a donor to donor matching app and see how that goes. I know some jurisdictions are using Carrot, but it's going to be combined with a built out platform that they're going to do in SharePoint. So it's going to be SharePoint and Chow Match together. See how it works. Yeah.
So there was a slide which said large generators. So the tier 1 are large generators and tier 2 are small, or is it? I wasn't sure what it meant.
Yeah. So here.
Something about large.
Yeah.
So what are those?
They're all essentially large generators,
Okay.
but the larger of the large generators are
Are
tier 1, right? So a lot of the tier 2 generators are big restaurants, hotels and stuff. It's not going to be like small mom and pop shops. Yeah.
I would imagine like a Disneyland would fit into tier 2, although it's massive, right? So
Yeah.
in that Anaheim scope.
Right. Right.
So the goal is 20% by 2025. What are we currently at right now?
I don't have the numbers for this year. I could pull them up. We did submit them to the state in August. Yeah, we're not anywhere close to that.
It was just tier 1 though,
Yes.
up
Mhm,
until very
mhm,
recently, right?
Right.
If y'all find that information, I can always send it in a follow-up email.
Yeah, I can share that, definitely.
Do we know if there's, because I would imagine that there would be additional costs for like, say, Food Share. In putting this program together, would there be any grants that they would be able to go after to be funded for this?
What we're hoping is there won't be additional cost to Food Share because the majority of this work is going to be done by Abound Food Care. But yes, there are grants that are available for edible food recovery, and the county's applying for one this year. I know some of the other jurisdictions are going to be applying for that too. Mhm.
I have like a general question. I guess I'm still unclear. So we have a goal 2025 to reduce the organic food waste by 75%. I guess what are like the top 3? We got this program for edible food repurposing, if you will. And then what are the next other 3 things happening right now that are being implemented to meet this goal?
Well, I mean, ordinances and collection agreements are big ones,
Mhm.
and that's to meet the diversion, the 2025 diversion. The edible food piece, yeah, that's pulling organics out of the landfill as well, completely different element.
Mhm.
So right now, that's where we're focused.
I guess I'm still unclear. Like, what does that mean though? Like,
The programs.
like
So-
what are these? What are like the top 3 programs that are? gonna be
Residentially, every resident gets an organics cart and you can put your green waste and food waste in the cart. That's one program. Commercial programs.
Mhm.
All commercial generators are getting a trash can, recycle can, and now an organics can to put the organics. And so there are programs being delivered by the contracts that the county
Right.
just signed with vendors to implement those organics collection programs. And we'll see where that lands. How much does that divert?
And short of being in a low population census tract where the Cal Recycle granted a waiver for receiving from the county, a waiver for de minimis or space constraints, everyone is required to divert the organics. And there's extensive audits that will be taking place. So we're gonna be getting people's trash.
Mhm.
There's contamination fees, but again, the carrot approach, there's gonna be education, education, education.
Mhm.
So we want to set people up for success, not for failure. So there's a lot to it, and collectively, we're hoping all of these pieces will get us to where we need to go.
Is there any program? I know what we do is we have Tupperware on the counter, so all the food waste get in there. It's a little sloppy and messy, but is there any, I don't know, program to like provide residential folks with like a in kitchen, I don't know. something
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
to
we
feel
have
like
it.
Where do you live? What's your?
Thousand Oaks.
City of Thousand Oaks?
Yeah.
City of Thousand Oaks, I believe they offer the kitchen food waste collection.
Through
don't they?
Athens. Yeah, we offer all of our unincorporated residents a kitchen pail free
Oh.
of charge. Yes.
See, that's.
And we'll have it
That-
delivered our hauler.
That's where the education comes in. I live in
Yes,
Thousand
that's where
Oaks.
the
I had no idea.
Yeah, I got one in my car right.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's white and green lid.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
That was
it.
the event for Supervisor for
Oh, yeah.
Public Works was there.
Yes, great,
You're
great.
Wayne?
Yes,
Okay.
that was the fire. Grab.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why
we
you
talked.
were familiar.
So then there's some elements that could be provided to residential customers that help them with their kitchen kind of.
Yes, and again,
waste collection.
every jurisdiction is on the hook to do their outreach to their residents and their businesses. So that incorporated area has done some extensive outreach, in mailings and, website postings and direct mail, whether it be hauler inserts or direct mails, going out to these meetings where we're meeting the residents. And, we want to make it easy for them.
So the carrot, and I guess I'm talking stick part of it. So like residents starting when they start paying fines if they don't, because I know in City of Thousand Oaks, Athens has given us new, all these new containers, and one container is for food waste, right? So when the fines go in, if residents don't.
Well, the contractor is held to annual waste evaluation, so they'll be out doing audits, and they are gonna flip every lid. But they can flip lids, or the newer vehicles have the technology cameras on their trucks that they can see exactly what's going in, and we don't want to see organics anywhere other than in the organics part. So I believe there's 3 different opportunities to reach out to residents after they've been shown that they have contaminated. So.
I live in a different county. I live in Santa Barbara in the city of Carpinteria. And I know if there's maybe a neighbor who might not have a good understanding of recycling and yard waste, that you can call the environmental services coordinator at the city of Carpinteria, and they will set up an appointment and maybe contact that resident to provide some outreach. I'm not sure. I believe probably most of our cities have a similar service.
Yeah. It's always coordinator.
Now, would we have then, as we have this new contract coming with the Abound Food Group, would we have perhaps like a mid-year kind of report about what they have seen, or?
Yes,
we're
we would
gonna
love
try
to,
measure
we would love to
because
come back and do that for you.
We
Yes,
don't want to wait a whole year.
yes, we would love to.
Okay,
That
that
would
would
be
be
awesome.
awesome.
As a part of that too, I'd be interested too to see the feedback and results around outreach and education.
Yeah,
I mean, I live in District 6, in Oxnard. And, there's a variety of approaches in terms of
Mhm.
reaching residents there. I know you mentioned mailers, but there's other strategies. So I'm curious to see how effective our strategies will be.
We're collecting emails as well, so we can do email blasts. Talk about doing that with text as well. We just have to get the correct permission from them first, so sometimes it takes a little bit of time to, if people are gonna sign up for it, they have to know what you're signing up for. We can't just take that data from the contractor and turn around and use it the way we want to use it. They have to know, they have to be okay that we're asking for their email or their phone number, and this is how we're gonna use it. So we're working on that.
So an idea would be is that how do you educate the kids, because they're at school and they're eating so
Yes.
it like really can get into the weeds, right, to get
Yeah.
to the customer that is.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, and we do have a school outreach program. In fact, we're getting ready to do a whole nother round of assemblies. A number of years ago, pre-COVID, we had Mr. Eco Hero come out and do assemblies at most of the unincorporated area schools. And he's a rap dancer who just, the kids love him. And it's just a fun way to teach them. And then they go home and they teach their parents, like, oh, no, you don't do it that way, you do it this way.
Yeah.
So starting out at the younger generation is super important.
Very good.
Yeah, and I'll just mention this year, a Public Works Agency does an annual event for school children throughout all the county, and they come here to the Hall of Administration and they see what Public Works does. Well, we had a big booth for, organics recycling, food recovery. Actually, Lisa and her husband built a mini MRF sort line, a material recovery sort line. And we had all kinds of materials on there, and it was rolling, and the kids were sorting stuff into the right, paper and plastics and aluminum and food scraps and trash. And it was just like a really fun hands-on thing for them to do together. So it was
Yeah,
great.
and it's a great opportunity to talk to them about, to dispel myths.
Yeah.
Of what they think might go somewhere, so.
It's Public Works Day usually in
May.
May. And there's lots of big touch.
Yeah, touch a truck. Yeah. Yeah.
Trucks to touch and lots of fun activities. I will be going as an adult.
Yeah.
Well, any other questions for our guests? Any questions online? So I do see one more item there under the chat. Is there a definition of large venue and or large event? At community conference?
Yeah, I would probably provide that to you for the large, if I could send that to you, Heather. Yeah,
okay.
I can answer that.
As far as
thanks.
community composting, there are a number of community composting organizations throughout the county. We'd love to see more come on board. So, and those are the perfect venue to, well, I should say, one of the perfect venues to maybe drop off a huge pile of compost where residents can come in and pick it up, take it home, or use it right there on their community garden. So we're really stretching where the many different avenues that we can get this compost out. So that's use.
You two have some wonderful work ahead of you, as well as gotten us to this point here to make sure that we maximize everything and reach those goals that we have. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you for your presentations. It's really heartening to see county staff working on climate change solutions. Really proud of you for doing that. Way to go.
Thank you.
Been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So only Heather, is it possible to get this presentation somehow?
Yes, I sent it out earlier, but I might have to resend it because I think the PDF may have had cut off some of the slides. But I'll send it out and I'll post it also on our website.
Okay. So let me just finish that agenda item with public comments. Anybody who has a public comment on this item on the agenda? So anyone here in the audience? No? All right. Anybody online? You can take yourself off of mute or raise your hand. All right, so not seeing anybody for public comment. Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you.
Back to work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank
let's
you.
move on to regular agenda item number 10, receiving an update from the county executive office staff. Heather.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you. And I'll follow up with the information they provide for the questions. especially also Shelley, the information that she requested. Okay, so the update from the county executive office was included in your packet. We had a let's plug into October library events. Last Thursday, we had an event in Ojai, and this is focused since it's Energy Month and Clean Air Day was earlier this month. We had EV 101 presentation and EV McWheely children's activities. If you haven't seen EV McWheely, he's a little cartoon character. And then we had build kits for the older students. So, you know, there's coloring, build kits, and then EV 101 presentation. We'll be following up with another presentation on Wednesday at Albert H. Solis Library. The events have we have translators there if needed for Spanish, and we have Evie McWheely Spanish coloring sheets too, so it's fun. October is Oaktober month. Morel, who's also on the line, is she participates in the Ventura County Tree Coalition, and there are some remaining Oaktober events. You can click on the link in your packet for those. Also going back to electrified transportation, we have our Drive Clean newsletter. We had the latest newsletter went out in September since we missed the September meeting. You can, where to subscribe to the newsletter or to see the September edition is linked in your meeting packet. And a couple months ago, y'all got a great presentation from our EV coach, Nancy. She has since left us and went to a partner organization, MyCop, that's helping implement our EV blueprint. And so we have a new EV coach. His name is Parker. He came to us, a recent graduate from UCSB, and he was also an intern for the Central Coast Clean Cities Coalition, or C5, in which the county is a member of C5, and that helps with outreach and the transition to not just electrified transportation, but hydrogen and any other forms of alternative transportation. They help a lot with commuter outreach, getting people into buses, stuff like that. So Parker will probably be in the new year, give another presentation, updating y'all on our EV blueprint implementation programs. Victor usually gives the CPIRG or the CPRG, which is a climate pollution reduction grant. He just got married this past weekend, so congratulations to Victor. But the CPIRG grant, we have selected our contractor, which is Rincon Consultants, and they're going to help with our priority climate action plan deliverable that is due in March. That priority climate action plan will be expanded into a more comprehensive climate action plan. So it's a regional approach. We're working with all of our cities, some of our special districts, our air pollution control district, the Central Coast Climate Justice Network, and some of our transportation commissions. So,
can I stop you out there and ask a question about that? Since the county already has a climate action plan, they doing another one, or is this more of a regional?
It's more of a regional climate action plan. And all the partners will choose 3 priority for the priority climate action plan. We will be choosing 3 sectors to focus on. The sectors could be like transportation, building energy, etc. So we'll be meeting later today, actually, at I believe 2 o'clock to meet with our partners to choose those 3 sectors that will be the focus of the priority climate action plan that is due in March. And then I believe in April of 2024, that'll be a more comprehensive climate action plan. So it's a short turnaround time. We were just awarded this grant from the federal EPA a couple months ago, and we have been meeting with our partner agencies as well as selecting our consultant.
And that's got all the cities involved?
Yes.
Every one of them?
Yes, I believe the city, It has all the cities that have responded to our request to participate. We haven't received a response from, I believe, the city of Ojai.
I'll have to get on them.
On that note, are there other cities outside of Ojai that have not responded?
Let's see. I think everyone has responded. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep.
Just
You're
Ojai?
missing- Well, no, I think you're missing two. I think you're missing Camarillo.
Oh, yes.
Camarillo.
Camarillo
So there's
has
10 cities.
recently transitioned their staff. So we are, I believe they were working on getting someone in place. And so we have been in contact with the city of Camarillo staff. I just don't think they have their designated staff contact yet. I can follow up. Victor may know a little bit more information about that.
Okay.
Our contact at Camarillo now works for Moore Park. Okay, moving right along, the VCCEC proposals, the remaining 2 went to the board in September. Vice Chair White was there and provided public comment. And just to recap, those were to create a policy to reduce GHG emissions from new and existing owned buildings and facilities. And the second proposal was to create a program to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from existing residential and non-residential buildings. So this sustainability division is right now we are planning a meeting with the County of Ventura Sustainability Committee, which is made up of representatives from all of our departments, to look at our admin manual, which is something that all county employees have, and to figure out where the best place in that admin manual to place the first Climate Emergency Council proposal dealing with county-owned buildings and facilities. We have a couple ideas of where it should go. And the admin manual is a better fit because if we try to add that policy to the general plan, it would most likely trigger a general plan update, which is a longer process. So we can get it added to the admin manual in a shorter process. And we'll be looking at where to place that in the admin manual, and then it will go back to the Board of Supervisors. So y'all will all get notified and updated each month. I believe the board only has a couple of meetings, so it'll most likely be early next year when we would go back to the board.
Yeah, we only have one in November because the second one got canceled.
And I believe that agenda is pretty packed.
Yeah.
Could I add to what
Oh,
you
yeah.
just reported? Yeah, I went to the meeting and the Board of Supervisors voted 5-0 to move forward this policy. It's a policy of electrifying county buildings and facilities where feasible. That's an important 2 words, where feasible, but I was really heartened to see the board unanimous on doing that. They did not approve the recommendation to expand the what 3C RIN is already working on. And you know, we adopted these recommendations a year ago, more than a year ago. It took a full year to get to the board for their consideration. In the meantime, Heather's group in the CEO's office has done a lot on this 3C RIN program, so it seemed a little redundant. But for county facilities, you know, county buildings, county is probably the biggest landlord or owner of buildings in the county. And are burning a lot of natural gas for heating, and so they have a lot of opportunities for reducing greenhouse gas emissions by electrifying with heat pumps and so forth. So yeah, I was excited. I stood up at the end of that meeting and I said, yay, you guys can all go home and brag that you took Took some climate action today. Way to go.
And this is called out later in the meeting packet in the last item, but our general services agency staff will be coming in November to give an update on our county efforts related to energy reduction, solar, battery storage at our county facilities, our county-owned buildings and facilities. So we'll get more information in November, and then we'll also be scheduling an update from 3C Ren staff to provide information on their new expanded program. So 3C Ren has historically been a residential program. They also have an energy code coach, and then they have trainings related to energy improvements and upgrades. And so that program will be expanding to commercial, municipal facilities, as well as agricultural programs. And I believe they'll be going to the board in November for approval of their program expansion. And yes, so regarding the VCCEC proposals, there'll be lots of follow-up items in the next couple of climate emergency council meetings. There's also an agenda item in September about the County of Ventura Renewable Energy Project siting assessments. And so the Resource Management Agency staff provided a presentation to the board, and they will be coming back at a later date because the board, there's, I believe, a ton of public comments. I'm not sure if Shelley would like to expand on this, but the board moved to consider all the comments that were provided during their September 26th board meeting, and RMA staff will return with additional information and options for addressing the comments provided during that meeting.
Is that a presentation that you can forward along to us?
Yes. Okay. And then I just wanted to call out our upcoming meeting dates because we temporarily changed our meetings to Mondays. And I believe our last Monday meeting will be on November 20th. I listed our December meeting. It's on a Tuesday, December 19th. Historically, that meeting is typically canceled because people are busy during that time of year, but it's up to the Climate Emergency Council. And then the meeting dates for 2024 have not been approved by the Climate Emergency Council. We're waiting for the Board of Supervisors calendar because we typically meet on the second or fourth Tuesday when the board is not meeting. And so I just have the first tentative dates, which would be Tuesday, January 16th and Tuesday, February 20th. I suspect we'll come back next month with our full meeting calendar and we can vote on those meeting dates. But I just wanted to highlight the final Monday meeting.
Tuesday going forward, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Heather.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any questions from the council? Rather on this item? No. And any questions from the public on this item? So public who is here? No. Okay. Anyone online who'd like to ask any questions? You can take yourself off of mute or raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then let's move on to item number 11. So this is a request from the Climate Emergency Council to discuss the May 30th motion requesting funding for technical staff or consultant assistance. So Heather, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, so we will be sending a meeting survey to the council members, kind of ranking what your priorities are for the technical assistance. As you recall, we would like to include this in the sustainability division budget for the next fiscal year. That has to be, the information needs to be provided for us to get it into our budget by January of 2024. Usually the budget's approved in June of 2024 or late May, early June of 2024. And so we just wanted more feedback so we know the direction to go, whether it be a purchase order, whether we need to do a contract, what type of assistance is needed. And we'll come back in November with more information, and that still gives us time to have everything wrapped up ahead of January. So, like I said, we'll be providing a survey, but, if anyone wants to provide any information right now on what they would like for technical assistance, I would welcome any feedback.
So this is just to get ahead of the curve, because last year, if you recall, we started to talk about it and it didn't get included into the budget because they start so much earlier than when we talked about it. So, any comments, any questions for Heather at this point?
Well, just to go back to the conversation we had in May, you know, I made a presentation that was up on the screen about basically saying that our group, while we're a great group, we're really not a technical staff that can come up easily with proposals for new policies and programs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, we have the thing that the board approved in September for electrifying county buildings, but that's about it that's come out of this. And I was the one that put that together, and boy, it was a lot of work and a tough go. And I am an engineer, so I'm able to do all these calculations and defend it and try to get the majority votes of this committee, which has not always been easy. But so in May, we had this conversation summarizing that we're really shouldn't be looked at by the county as the technical staff to come up with new policies and programs that are missing, that are needed to achieve the goals in the climate action plan. And out of that conversation came, I think it was your motion that we should recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they hire a technical person or a consultant to be developing these new ideas, these new policies and programs. And I guess I was hopeful that would have been sent to the board. I don't think the board was ever officially notified of that. I know that I talked to my supervisor, Supervisor Levere, and he was made aware of it. I don't know if any of the rest of you talked to yours, but I was disappointed that, you know, we took an action and it didn't seem like it really got communicated to the board. We're here to advise the board, and we made some advice and it didn't go anywhere. And so what do we need to do to actually get it to them and make sure they hear this recommendation from our group? I guess that would be my question.
That's the point of this item, is to get feedback so we can figure out what exactly is needed. So then we can include it in our budget that goes to the Board of Supervisors for their approval.
I think to your point, Bill, I think I think I was just getting on board. I think the reason why it never got presented to the board is the budget had already been set for the year. There was nothing they could do or vote on it anyway. We had to get it on next year.
Correct.
Budget
Yeah,
to
yeah.
ask for funds.
Yeah.
Next year's cycle.
So there was no rush to.
Alejandra had.
Well, there is certainly a rush to do it because we have this climate problem, but yeah, what do we need to do is the question. Do we need to do it again? Do we need to vote on this again? How do we get this transmitted to the board? We think
Well,
this should
we
happen.
will be transmitting it to the board during the budget process, but I'm trying to get feedback on what is meant by technical assistance, like
Specifically,
specifically.
okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so this group was originally put together because the climate emergency plan was adopted within the larger scope of the general plan for the county. And we're only looking at unincorporated areas,
Correct.
no cities, but the unincorporated areas of Ventura County. And we were designated to say, okay, so there's 27 elements within the plan that don't necessarily have GHG reduction measurements in them. So I think when Phil was looking at it, it's like, well, we're not technical people to address those. We can take a look at what else is going on that does have the measurements attached to it and see like how we're going about reducing based on those goals and those tactics. But it would be, how do we identify then those 27 that don't? And working alongside then somebody who could help guide us and navigate and come up with then those examples or the numbers that we're gonna then be identifying for those 27 other items.
Yes, that information was, it's linked in this packet. The information on those 27 items, and it was included in the May 30th meeting agenda. We did a presentation on it. So I guess, yes, just more information on what the Climate Emergency Council expects so that we can develop a scope of work.
When I made the motion, what I had in my mind, the concept of it was that we asked for not a particular institution or a particular consultant, but a dollar amount for this council to be able to spend, as needed for the purposes, specific purposes of the council. So the kind of the question I had is, I have no idea what is a reasonable amount of money to ask for. Is that 100,000? Is it 150,000? Is it 50,000? What a consultant's cost, but that was my idea when I made the motion was, it'd be great if we could have a budget that should we have a specific need in terms of information that we could reach out and probably through the RFP type thing
Yes.
to hire someone.
At the same time too, there was something that happened that you folks then did get a grant that allowed you to bring somebody else on. So could we actually use that as an example that says with that funding, it helped you acquire then 1.25 people or, full-time equivalents to then give us some kind of basis?
Yeah, so as part of the climate pollution reduction grant, we did hire a consultant. That was specific for the RFP. There needs to be a scope of work, so it was to help with this specific grant, to do greenhouse gas emissions inventory, to help with community meetings, stuff like that. And I believe there may be some opportunity for RenCon to help us with some inventory information, because it would may be under the PCAP, the Priority Climate Action Plan scope of work. I'm not sure how much they will be able to help. That would be a conversation. But I guess to your question, for the scope of work, that would help figure out how much it may cost. So I was going to try to get some initial input today and then put that in a survey, like a Google survey that I would send out to the group, where you could rank your priorities for this technical assistance.
But I think the inventory is the only thing that matters, and in the presentation, I recall, the information was about 10 years old, so that is not helpful today. And I don't know that you have the staff at your fingertips with the technical capabilities to understand what the inventories are today, because what's happening is the federal government and the state government continue to pass legislation impacting every jurisdiction to reduce their greenhouse gas footprints. How is that impacting ours? Where are we today? This piece of legislation that was presented earlier, do you realize that was passed in 2016? And we're just talking about it. And SB 54 was just passed last year. Nobody even knows what it means. So not having technical staff available to say, where are we? We got to measure what matters. The state and Fed are passing them as fast as you can read them. The governor passed 40 new pieces of climate legislation last year. This group doesn't have an understanding how that's going to impact our inventory, because it's already mandated that you do it. every jurisdiction does it. So for us to recommend anything, how do we even recommend anything when it may already be legislated to do it? So we're not looking for additionality, we're looking, how are we gonna keep up with the mandates? Because they're, like I said, passing them as fast as we can read them. Going to electric vehicles by 2030, how's that gonna impact us and how are we gonna do it? And the board, how do we recommend anything? So this last piece that Phil went to, where the recommendations went to the board, at least I felt good that I got phone calls from staff, from the different supervisor offices to ask about the impacts of that. What does that do? And fortunately, I know enough about climate law because I'm in that space that I can at least give a reasonable explanation of why this body would need and recommend that kind of information. So please send the survey. I truly think I understand what you're saying. You need some guardrails around what kind of technical assistance.
Correct.
We need to be able to ask questions and you need to have staff that can get the answers, even if they don't have it at their fingertips.
Yes, and the county will be updating our GHG inventory in 2024.
And so let's talk about that. I mean, Bill's absolutely right that the first thing you need is an inventory. Where are you at? And that inventory needs to be updated regularly as new legislation is adopted and implemented, and things that the county is already doing get implemented and reduce emissions. Before you start recommending new policies and programs, you need to know how close are you to where you're headed. So what is the status of the county climate action plan includes a requirement that the county update the inventory by 2025, which is a little over a year from now. And so presumably that will happen in 2024.
Correct.
And be ready to go January 1st of 2025. So what's happening with that?
We will be getting a presentation on our CAP map later this year, but we currently are working with the consultant for the regional climate action plan. I don't think we have done an RFP for our county only unincorporated climate action plan.
So as Bill says, that's incredibly important that happened. And I mean, we're kind of running out of time to make that happen by the deadline that's already adopted by the board back in 2020. Somebody needs to be hired to do that in the general plan, climate action plan development. There was a consultant hired who did that inventory. And so somebody like that needs to be hired again to update.
Right, and we will be doing that.
I thought it was Q2, I thought the sustainability division had a dashboard that was being created.
Right, that's our CAP map project, and that will be presented later, I believe in December or January.
And that'll be live
Yes.
Q1 of next year, where we
Yes.
can actually see what the inventory is and where we are on our goals so that we can start tracking how productive this climate action.
Okay, so who's doing that?
Um,
I was gonna say, I could add some more information on the CAP map, but yes, we'll be showing the part of our activity metrics, which we call these community wide metrics, as well as some of our CAP programs that show the progress that we've made. And then we'll be starting our reporting cycle for the 2023 reporting year, starting in January of 2024 until March of 2024. So March of 2024 is when we'll have progress on how all our general plan programs are doing, since our CAP is a part of our general plan. But yes, there'll be some information. So there'll be a portion of what our CAP is available in December, and then the other portion of itself, general reporting of all general plan programs, completed in March of 2024.
So just so I understand, so we will have a 2023 inventory then?
It will be, so it won't be a GHG inventory, it will be a progress report of all our general plan programs. So asking the staff assigned, saying, how are you doing on each program? And what is the metric that you're using to calculate the success of this program? Have there been any delays and so on? In terms of a GHG inventory, that goes back with, as Heather was saying, with our regional climate action plan, based on just itself, availability of our consultants and the deadlines. We'll see if we could do either the regional GHG inventory that, or preferably having one at the city and then county level.
We'll come back with more information when we have our cap map presentation.
Okay, the cap map, as I understand it, is a summary of how the county staff is doing in implementing what's in the adopted climate action plan. That's not the same thing as an inventory.
Correct, we're supposed to have inventory for 2025. That was what was approved in the general plan.
Yeah, so the cap map is not the inventory. It's a status report on
Correct.
implementing the climate action plan.
And that's what we've been waiting for as well, is the.
Yes.
But what's really needed is, you know, just go back to what Bill said, for us to do what we're supposed to do as a committee. That's what's needed right away. And so somebody needs to be putting out an RFP to a consultant probably for doing this. I don't know if this county-wide thing is sufficiently robust to do a detailed emission inventory. Do you think it is?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Whether the region, the county-wide EPA grant, there's an inventory there. Is that really as robust as what we need?
So there will be a priority inventory that is due in March for our priority climate action plan. And that inventory is really focused on the 3 sectors that our CPIRG committee, which is made up of most of our city partners, APCD, the Transportation Commission, and Port of Waimimi. What sectors they identify is the biggest GHG emission reduction, or the GHG emitting sectors. So whatever that committee identifies as those 3 priority sectors, there will be a priority climate action plan and priority inventory for those 3 sectors that we'll have in March. That's at the regional scale. Then the following year, we will have a regional inventory that's a more comprehensive inventory. So that's all for a regional climate action plan. Then for the unincorporated, we will be working on an unincorporated specific climate action plan that will be due in 2025.
An inventory.
Yes.
And so that will be done by who are you thinking will do that?
I'm not sure.
So the county will put out an RFP
Correct.
to consultants probably.
Yes.
Doesn't that need to happen right away?
We have some time. We will be able to build off the work that we're doing for the comprehensive climate action plan.
Just a clarification, that cat map is it'll be a real-time dashboard giving us where we're at, and it'll also quantify all of these programs that we're implementing and what that greenhouse gas emission reduction is, correct?
It'll have, yes, for some of the measures, it'll have the GHG emissions quantified. Merle, did you want to speak more to that?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, when we say real time, it won't be like continuously updated. It'd be updated as when we're doing the annual reporting cycle. So from what the information we've been working on in sustainability division, there's information there, but then it'll be happening from then on annually. So this will be updated every year.
I'll just add, the biggest hurdle for doing inventories is accessing the data. Sometimes the utilities have more data available online now than they used to, but it used to sometimes take up to 6 months to get just, for example, energy data. And so part, when we will be requesting the data for the regional inventory, we will also be requesting the data for the unincorporated county. So, and I also believe the other big GHG emissions is with transportation. And so VCTC, I believe, is updating their transportation GHG emission data. They've either already updated it or will be updating it soon. I can't remember. Morel, do you recall?
Could you repeat the question there?
Yes, VCTC for their transportation modeling, have they already completed it or will it be completed soon? I can't recall.
I can't completely recall either, but I think it's completed. And then they had also referenced us the SCAG model.
Yes. So I'm pretty sure it's been completed, but I'm not 100% sure. So I can follow up.
All right, any other questions? Any comments?
Maybe just a comment, in terms of, we talked a little bit about legislation and staying apprised of the legislation that's happening, and as we think about 2024 with the new legislative cycle starting, is there a way in which we have access to that information of policies and legislation that is being developed regarding climate?
Yes, I can see if that would be part of, if we could have someone present, or if that would be part of this RFP for technical assistance. So I'll have to follow up and see how that would fit in.
So my perspective, receiving all the information today, we're looking at the need for additional feedback input that could only be achieved from somebody outside of the county organization.
Correct.
I don't know if we need somebody specifically for us. I think that this proposal would probably be best moved up the chain and approved if it was us supporting that, our need in conjunction with the need of the rest of the county, whether there's just, specifically the sustainability portion or the county in general. So if they could, ask to encumber whatever, $100,000 needed for everybody to be able to utilize, because we're gonna go up to you with any questions we have, right?
Right.
And it'll be up to you to try to get us the answers that we need. So that's how I perceive it, is we're not a small cog, but we're part of the overall portion of what this consultant will be doing.
Right. So the consultant would be to help fulfill the climate emergency's goal, which is to develop these policies and programs that will reduce GHG emissions.
And then, I agree with Bill, and I forget your first name. Yeah, that obviously we need to know what we don't know in the very beginning. What's, maybe something after the first year, a presentation by a legislative consultant or whatever, that would be a benefit to the entire county, not just to us. If we could either sit in on that or have it recorded, that would be, I think that would be a great first step for bringing us up to speed on what we don't know.
Perfect. That will be one of the items I will include in this
Yes.
survey.
Thank you.
Any other last comments?
I would just reiterate that what I see missing in the county staff is, and I love all the work you guys are doing, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to be critical. But just observing as a former APCD director who was focused on trying to achieve air quality standards and reducing emissions of oxides of nitrogen and reactive organic compounds. Had a team of engineers developing proposed regulations to reduce emissions. it's a technical effort. And what I see lacking in the CEO's office, sustainability division, is a robust technical capability to be doing this analysis and coming forward with looking at the inventory and saying, hey, we're not there, but this source category, let's say it's oil and gas equipment is emitting this much and we need to reduce it. To be doing the technical work of coming up with proposed policies and programs to reduce the emissions. And I think that's what I see as needed in the county staff and a recommendation from our group. Sylvia talks about the 27 items that are in the climate action plan that were kind of assigned to us to do. And they include things like permeable paving and should we be able to, are we able to quantify the emission reductions from that? That's an example. My opinion is the 27 things are not gonna get us to where we need to be in emission reductions. And this committee is not gonna be coming up with enough proposed policies and programs that will get us where we need to go. What's needed are some staff people who are engineers or technical people or a consultant team to put that together. Because there's a long way to go to get to where we need to be to meet the emission reduction goals. And I think, our job is to not, I don't think that the.
There we go. All right. So sorry about that, everyone online. We accidentally got kicked off the system, so we just came back on. So thanks so much for sticking this out with us. So we're still on item number 11 with some discussion continuing so what I'm hearing then is that we'll be receiving like a survey from you,
Yes.
right? And it's to give us perhaps those parameters of what we may want to design from the standpoint of a consultant. What do we have the sustainability division build into the budget to then be presented so that we get some work done? And so Heather's going to come to us with some questions.
Yes.
Okay, so that sounds like that's the next step.
And today's discussion will help inform that survey. So
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. So let's go, any other questions or comments? All right, so then let's go to public comment. So anyone here in the audience that wants to comment on this agenda item or anybody online, you can take yourself off of mute or raise your hand. All right, so seeing none, then let's move on to item number 12. And this is the request from me, the chair, Sylvia Munoz-Schnapp, to discuss formation of technical advisory committees. And it was something that we created back in round 1 of this committee, the original members here. And we actually created 4 tasks. With some of the other information that has come about through this, the items on the agenda, and then our just last discussion here for item number 11. This item number 12 is to kind of bring back the idea of subgrouping these members into those technical advisory committees. Originally, we had gone through a couple of study sessions, which happened with Heather's predecessor, who was Clay, who took us through that, and we identified then these 4 tasks. And so it was an agricultural task, a transportation task, an evaluation criteria task, and an other issues task. And so at that point, we had a couple of people who are interested in transportation. And so what it meant was we could identify the TAC we wanted to be on, but we couldn't be on a second TAC because then that violates the Brown Act. These meetings, these subcommittee meetings didn't have to be noticed. You could, talk to others outside of the group and then bring back to this group discussion as to what you felt was important. The interesting thing is that Phil was on the other issues TAC, I was on the agricultural TAC with Key, and then some of the other members were on the other TACs that may not be with this group any longer. But the other issues TAC really generated the items that went to the Planning Commission and then were adopted by the board in those first 2 years. So the other issues TAC really was more of a consistent meters that then focused in on what we could actually do as part of this group. So I feel that worked, and that could be an opportunity for us to be formed that way, or just to consolidate some thoughts so that we get some different issues moving. The agricultural transportation were really important because we saw that that's where we could possibly make a bigger dent in helping reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Evaluation was, how do we evaluate then these items that come up? And the other issues was everything that fit outside of agricultural and transportation. I feel though that if we do this, it would maybe be the cart before the horse, because some of these other items that we identified here may drive some of that. It sounds like, Heather, when you talked about the group within the county itself, the sustainability committee, and you're working with other municipalities, that you're kind of come up with like those 3 important priorities, right? So it kind of seems like, well, that could then influence then how the tax get formulated, and or what we consider in your survey, what goes back to you,
Right.
it could possibly then shape then the tax as well. So this, instead of coming up with, hey, this is the way we're gonna go, let's just put it out there and say, this could be it. And maybe by pulling these other kind of silos up, that we could identify, is this it? And these may be the ways we form the tax.
I suppose the cap map presentation would provide a lot of information that would help.
Yeah.
Form, and then also what comes out of the CPERG climate pollution reduction grant. And so we can provide an update on that next month.
Okay. Any questions or comments there?
Well, I think it's important, like Heather's said about the report, because a good portion of it's been done. A lot of it's been initiated, some of it's been completed, some of the tasks. It looks like maybe 28 or so haven't been initiated yet. But that report's gonna be very interesting to determine what we focus on.
Yeah. Okay. All right, very good. Any public comments on this item? So anybody here in the audience? Maggie, you're the only one online still as we approach the 2 o'clock hour. Any comments on item number 12? All right. Seeing none, then let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 13, council member comments and future agenda items. Who wishes to start? Nothing? Vice Chair?
I think I'm good today.
Okay. Councilmember Prince?
Okay, so
Uh,
next,
I'm sorry.
Councilmember
So this was a great conversation today, and it forced me to look up lots of things, and it's gonna be great to see what the climate action plan report looks like, but it also states on this website that you can receive information from the Climate Action Council, receive updates
from
in
the
this
climate
website.
Climate Action Council.
Yeah, it says receive updates from the Ventura County Climate Emergency Council. So if someone signs up for that, what are they getting?
I believe there's a listserv that is the agenda packet.
Yeah.
So that's all that they're getting is the agenda.
Yes.
It also says you can watch previously recorded meetings and gives them a link to that. So do you think we're providing solid information to the general public that watches these meetings?
I believe so. Our website has our contact information and people email us and call us a lot. And so, we respond to those questions.
So if they sign up, they would get information pushed out to them, otherwise they can just find it online.
Correct. So I'm not sure how many people are signed up for that listserv. I would have to ask Morel, but it's quite a few.
And who sets the agenda for the meetings?
It's usually what y'all like for this item, what y'all are interested in for the next meeting, and then it's sent to the chair.
And then I work with Heather on the agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, one thing I'd like to add for future agenda item is to have the person who is responsible here at the county for tracking all the bills that are coming through. And those in particular that would apply to us. And so perhaps they would do a presentation in the near future.
Okay.
Legislative update.
I will see if we can fit that in November, December, or January. So I'll try to request a November presentation.
Okay.
But
Super.
so
you.
far I have CPIRG update, and then the General Services Agency will be presenting on our energy upgrades at county facilities and buildings.
Okay.
And then we could get a presentation from EJ Harrison Sons. Or would you like that postponed so it's at the same time as Waste Management in Athens gives a presentation?
That might be best, huh? Because they're in the same.
Okay.
Might make it a long meeting if they all three.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have them separate.
Okay, perfect. I'll try to stagger EJ
Each
Harrison's.
of them, yes, I agree, each of them separate.
Okay, so maybe EJ Harrison's will be
Yes.
next month.
Yeah.
Athens will be the following month if it's appropriate, since I'm
Yeah.
not sure when their contract starts, but Waste Management has been scheduled for January.
Okay.
So when is Athens hasn't been scheduled yet, Athens, when are they scheduled? So,
I haven't contacted them yet because I don't think they have a contract yet, so
Okay.
I'll figure out their timing. So it could be December, it could be February.
All right.
So, okay.
So then any public comments for this item here? Item number 13. Anybody here in the audience? Nobody? Maggie online? No comments for this item? All right. So then we drop down to 13C, which is the next Climate Emergency Council meeting is scheduled here Monday, the last Monday that we're going to be meeting. We then revert to Tuesdays. So our next meeting is Monday, November 20th at noon here in this building. So let's go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you, Heather, always good job.
You've done a good meeting.
Okay.
Look at those climate panels on the way out.
Yes.
It's out time. It's good to see you.
Talk to you.
Good to see you.